3 billion people are watching the FIFA World Cup 2026 right now. They are watching goals. They are watching upsets. They are watching Messi. What almost none of them are watching, what almost no political commentator has clearly explained, is the most sophisticated display of political power, institutional manipulation, and geopolitical tension that 2026 has produced so far. And it is all happening in plain sight. I am not talking about which team wins. I am not talking about refereeing decisions. I am talking about FIFA World Cup 2026 politics, the relationship between a sitting American president and the most powerful sports organization on earth, a host nation at war with a participating nation during the tournament itself, and the complete collapse of the claim that sports and politics are separate. If you want to understand how political power actually works, not in a textbook, not in a congressional hearing, but right now in real time on the world's biggest stage, this video will show you exactly how to read it. Before I get into the specifics, I want to be clear about what this video is. This is not a sports video. I am not going to tell you which team I think will win. I am not going to offer a partisan take on Donald Trump, on Iran, or on any of the political actors involved in what is happening right now. What I am going to do is apply the same analytical framework I use on every political topic, context, incentives, consequences to the most watched event on earth right now. And I am going to show you that the World Cup 2026 is a near perfect case study in how political power actually operates. Here is what we are covering. 1, the FIFA-Trump relationship. What it is, how it happened, and what the incentive structure behind it reveals about how global institutions actually navigate political power. 2, Iran at the World Cup. The geopolitical reality of a host nation conducting military operations against a participating nation during an active tournament, and what that tells you about how governments use sports as a political instrument. 3, the language of neutrality. How FIFA says politics should stay out of sport while doing the precise opposite, and why that gap between stated principle and actual behavior is one of the most important things to understand about any powerful institution. 4, the gentleman's framework applied. What a statesman sees when he watches the World Cup that a casual viewer misses entirely. This is how sports and politics connect at the highest level. Let us start with the relationship nobody is explaining clearly. In November 2025, FIFA President Gianni Infantino awarded Donald Trump something called the FIFA Peace Prize. Let me be precise about what that means structurally, because the surface reading and the analytical reading are completely different. On the surface, a sports organization honored a political leader for his contributions to peace. That is the stated framing. Now let us apply the incentive map. FIFA is the governing body of the most commercially valuable sport on earth. The 2026 World Cup is being hosted across the United States, Canada, and Mexico, with the United States hosting the majority of matches, including the final. The American market represents an enormous share of FIFA's commercial interests, broadcast rights, sponsorship revenue, ticket sales, and the long-term relationship with American soccer development. Donald Trump is the sitting president of the United States. Now ask the Bismarckian question, not what should be true, but what is actually true given those structural facts. A global sports organization hosting its most commercially significant tournament in American history during the presidency of a man known for using political relationships as leverage has an overwhelming institutional incentive to maintain a close, cooperative relationship with that president. The FIFA Peace Prize was not primarily a statement about peace. It was a statement about access, cooperation, and institutional self-preservation. That is not a cynical interpretation. It is an incentive map. And once you see it clearly, everything that followed Infantino's repeated visits to the White House, His presence at Trump's Gaza peace summit, his public alignment with the administration reads not as personal affection, but as rational institutional strategy. This is exactly how powerful global organizations navigate political environments. They do not pick sides. They secure access to whoever holds power. Understanding that pattern, the way institutions manage political relationships to protect their operational interests, is one of the most useful analytical habits you can develop, because it operates the same way in every industry, every government, and every major organization you will ever encounter. Now let us look at the single most extraordinary political situation in the history of the FIFA World Cup. The United States is co-hosting the 2026 tournament. Iran qualified for and is competing in that tournament, and the United States conducted military strikes against Iran during the period surrounding the tournament. Take a moment to absorb what that actually means structurally. A country is simultaneously hosting a global sporting event that explicitly promotes international unity and conducting military operations against one of the participating nations. Before the tournament, American authorities reportedly denied visas to several Iranian team officials and delegation members. Iranian fans were subject to travel restrictions that made attending matches in the United States effectively impossible. Iran's sports minister at one point stated the team would not participate at all. And yet, Iran competed. How does that happen? What forces produced that outcome? Apply the three-step framework. Context first. The FIFA World Cup generates billions of dollars in revenue and represents decades of diplomatic and commercial relationship building. Iran's national team earned their qualification through years of competitive play. Removing a qualified nation from the tournament, especially under political rather than sporting grounds, would set a precedent that could unravel the entire structure of international sports governance. Incentives. FIFA had a powerful institutional incentive to ensure Iran competed both for the commercial integrity of the tournament and for its stated mission of universality. The Trump administration had a separate but parallel incentive, the optics of a World Cup on American soil being boycotted by a participating nation would have been a significant diplomatic embarrassment. Consequences: Iran competed. But Iranian fans were largely unable to attend. Iranian team officials navigated extraordinary logistical constraints, and the entire situation produced a global media narrative that contradicted the tournament's official message of unity at every turn. This is what political consequences actually look like, not clean victories or clean defeats, but messy, negotiated outcomes where every actor gets something and nobody gets everything. A statesman reads that situation and sees a case study in how geopolitical tension, institutional interest, and political optics interact in real time. A casual viewer sees a soccer tournament. In 2018, FIFA President Infantino made a statement that has since become one of the most analyzed sentences in sports governance. He said, "It is very clear that politics should stay out of football and football should stay out of politics." I want to use this statement as a live example of everything we covered in our video on political language and framing. That sentence performs several functions simultaneously. First, it establishes a principle of neutrality that protects FIFA from criticism when it makes politically convenient decisions because it can always invoke the principle as its official position. Second, it frames any criticism of FIFA's political entanglements as a violation of the principle rather than as an observation about FIFA's own behavior. Third, and this is the most sophisticated function, it creates the appearance of institutional integrity while the institution continues to operate in deeply political ways. The gap between politics should stay out of sport, and awarding a sitting president a peace prize named after the sport is not hypocrisy in the conventional sense. It is deliberate institutional framing. This is the Overton window in practice. FIFA's repeated invocation of political neutrality has established a norm, a frame within which its actual political behavior becomes difficult to criticize without appearing to violate the norm yourself. When an institution says we do not do politics while doing politics, the statement is not a description of behavior. It is a political act in itself. A gentleman recognizes that immediately. And once you can see language performing that function in a sports organization, you will recognize it performing the same function in governments, corporations, media organizations, and political parties everywhere you look. The mechanism is identical, only the context changes. Here is what the gentleman's framework reveals when applied to the 2026 World Cup. Context, the FIFA World Cup was built on the post-World War II ideal of international sport as a vehicle for global unity. That context explains both the extraordinary commercial value of the tournament and the extraordinary political sensitivity of any event that contradicts its founding narrative. Incentives, every major actor in the political drama surrounding this tournament is operating according to a rational institutional interest. FIFA is protecting its access to the American market. The Trump administration is managing the optics of hosting the world's most watched event. Participating nations are balancing diplomatic pressure against the competitive and commercial value of World Cup participation. Consequences, what we are watching in real time, is the collision between the ideal of international unity and the reality of geopolitical conflict. That collision is not being resolved. It is being managed through language, through institutional relationships, and through the calculated deployment of the tournament itself as a form of soft power. The World Cup has always been a political instrument. Every nation that hosts it uses it to project power, legitimacy, and cultural significance to a global audience. The United States in 2026 is no different from Germany in 2006, Brazil in 2014, or Russia in 2018, a host nation using the world's attention to tell a story about itself. The question a statesman asks is not whether sports and politics should be separate. They are not, they never have been, and the evidence of 2026 makes that clearer than ever. The question is now that you can see the political machinery operating underneath the sporting spectacle. Are you watching the game or are you reading the balance sheet? Here is the gentleman's verdict on the 2026 World Cup. 3 billion people are watching the same event right now. Most of them are watching it as a sporting competition. A much smaller number are watching it as what it also is, one of the most sophisticated and revealing displays of political power, institutional strategy, and geopolitical tension of this entire year. The FIFA-Trump relationship is an incentive map. The Iran situation is a consequence analysis. The language of neutrality is a framing study. And the tournament itself is a case study in how nations use cultural events as instruments of political influence. Every analytical tool I teach on this channel, context, incentives, consequences, framing, institutional behavior, is operating visibly and verifiably in the World Cup right now. That is what political literacy actually looks like in practice. Not reading a textbook. Reading the world around you with the right framework. If this breakdown gave you a genuinely different way of watching what is happening right now, subscribe to this channel, because this is what every video here is designed to do, give you the framework that makes the world readable in a way it simply was not before. My online course is available now at kentpolitics.com/courses lifetime access for $997. If you want to go further and work with me directly, my coaching program and application are at kentpolitics.com/coaching and kentpolitics.com/application. All links are in the description below, including my Instagram, Facebook, and everything else. My name is Kent Tran. This is The Political Gentleman. The World Cup continues. Now you know how to watch it.